Welcome back to the Coach Cameron podcast. We're going to have Bernie Livavois on as a guest. He's a major ambassador to indoor soccer or arena professional soccer, or however you want to call it. And we're going to have a long conversation about what's the state of indoor soccer today. What is this indoor soccer alumni that's being formed? We're going to have a lot of conversations. All of this on episode 546. So our next guest we're going to bring on is Bernie Livavois, who's a huge ambassador for the game. He influences the indoor soccer game like no one else. He's, as a player, he's played all over the country, on 15 different teams from, Anaheim Splash to Buffalo Blizzards, Portland Pythons, Anaheim Bolts, just to name a few. He's been all over the place scoring goals in many different cities. But he's also been a manager, not only for the Stockton Cougars and Anaheim Bolts. He's also managed the U.S. National Arena Soccer Team, which he still deals with today. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how Landon Donovan and Jermaine Jones and how they joined the league to help it grow and the excitement that's going on there. And we're going to talk about the indoor soccer alumni that Bernie is really organized and starting to ramp up. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about. And me being an indoor ex-professional, I'm going to join the alumni and see how I can contribute, whether it's a podcast or whatever I can do to grow the game, a game that we love, which is indoor soccer. So with no further ado, Bernie Livavois. Bernie, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. You like my jersey? I'm wearing Chris Scotty's jersey.
Oh man, the Sockers have been my enemy for the last 20 years. What are you doing to me? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's great. Thanks for having me on, David. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem. It was it's been a long time. We've talked on and off. We've always tried to get indoor going back in Arizona, but it's never came about, which is unfortunate, but you never know. There's always these small groups coming out, but not any serious ownership at this point. But, before we start talking about indoor soccer and what you're doing with the indoor soccer alumni, let's talk a little bit about kind of how we've crossed paths. I think the first time we played each other was in 1997 when you were with the Anaheim Splash. And we played up there. I think you guys swept us. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. I think we swept you guys.
So. Yeah, we weren't that good. Up there in Anaheim, you guys had a whole production. You guys had cheerleaders. You guys had an after game party. I mean, it was different. It felt more professional than any other city we went to in 1997. What kind of who was the ownership back then, and what was their kind of vision with Anaheim? I really enjoyed how they produced their product back in 1997.
Yeah, well, it was a great organization. It's unfortunate that, not just them, but the whole CISL kind of fell apart and went away. I mean, what a league that was. I think to this day, that was one of the best indoor soccer leagues, from top to bottom that we had. A lot of quality players, a lot of quality cities, a lot of quality teams. But yeah, Anaheim took it to another level. I know Tim Ryan, who's involved with the Anaheim Ducks to this day, was heavily involved in the operations of it. We also had, which was Ogden Entertainment at the time. They're the ones that owned the actual pond, or what's Honda Center now, for the folks that go there now in Anaheim. So, I mean, you're talking about a company that owned a building, owned the Anaheim Ducks. So they're in the entertainment business already. So I think they brought that little bit of entertainment and professionalism to the indoor soccer team. And then I think the last couple of years, we had Don Ebert, who's a big name in indoor soccer. Played in St. Louis for many years as a player, went up the ranks, and he runs a lot of youth leagues out here now in Southern California. Himself and Gary Sparks, which is just an individual owner, he was running the Coast Soccer League out here, which to this day is still the biggest, largest, club soccer league in Southern California. Those two guys kind of took it over in 97 and continued what the Anaheim Ducks and Ogden Entertainment were doing. So great memories with the Splash. Like I said, not just here in Anaheim, but all the different teams that we visited and played, and you guys out there in Arizona, and hopefully one day Arizona get another team again. I think part of this indoor soccer alumni is to spread awareness of our great sport. Get guys like you and myself and so many of these older guys back involved in the sport. And even if we start at the grassroots level, and you mentioned a lot of smaller guys are trying to start it up. Well, we need that. We need as much indoor soccer as possible in order to get the big wealthy businessmen and sports people back involved in our sport. So great times with Anaheim.
Ed, have you ever heard of the story? I don't know how much of this is true, but this is a story I heard in 1995. The Arizona Sand Sharks were owned by Colangelo,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Jerry Colangelo, and Brian Colangelo. His son was really involved, and a fight broke out after one of the games, led by Franklin McIntosh, and it
Mm-hmm.
happened downstairs where the players park and the ownership parked, and Brian Colangelo tried to break it up, and McIntosh, as he's pulling back, punching somebody. I forgot who they're playing, and broke Brian Colangelo's nose. And then they immediately sold the Sand Sharks to the sports group like right away. So that kind of led to the demise of the Arizona Sand Sharks. I mean, you don't want to lose ownership like the Colangelos, but have you heard about that?
I did not. That's the first time I've heard that story. That'd be interesting, to go back and find out some details about that. I played with Franklin in Cincinnati. I want to say in 98ish, 99ish, or maybe even in 97 after he left the Sand Sharks there. But never heard that story. I mean, obviously Franklin, unbelievable player.
Yeah.
On the field, very competitive, on and off the field as well. Good guy, but hopefully that's not true. But no, I never heard any of that. I did hear a lot of NBA owners like Coangelo and the Bus family, and it so on and so on with just NBA and NHL owners own quite a bit of teams in our league. But I think something with the WNBA and some other stuff happened that a lot of them, left, but did never heard about that. So I'll have
Yeah.
to do some digging on that.
Yeah. It's all.
Instigative report.
I know. It's just one of the many stories, and just knowing Franklin, uh, I knew he had
Yeah,
a temper, and
yeah.
they would take it further than the game. It would be in the locker rooms. It'd be in the parking lot. It was
Right. Right.
he would
Yeah,
follow through
hopefully
with
not.
what he
I mean, I know.
said.
Yeah,
But
he was an intense guy, and he brought it every night. And I could see something like that happening, but hopefully not. And I don't think that's the demise of it. Like meaning they said, hey, let's sell this ASAP. There's probably a lot of other things leading up to it before then. But you know, like you said, just one of the crazy many stories we have in indoor. And part of this alumni thing is to talk about them and have fun with them and bring back the memories for a lot of the guys. So
so one other, I think you played with Rich Ryerson, right? He was the
I
goalkeeper,
did.
uh,
Rich Rack, no, he's a defender.
a
Actually,
defender.
he's the head. Yeah, he's the head coach now over at UNLV
Yep.
men's soccer.
So
So played with them in San Jose with the Grizzlies briefly, and then I believe we reconnected in Anaheim again. So
yeah, I just saw him on a recruiting trip. We're at the same fields recruiting players, and we got talking, and then somehow we started talking about indoor soccer, and
uh-huh.
and it's a small world that we actually played against each other, and being much older than me. But
Right.
let's talk a little bit about what's going on with indoor soccer now. It's obviously changed so many times, and you've somehow have stuck with it over all these years, and you've always had impact in the game. You've always been around. You're always doing something, whether it be with uh, the arena national team to coaching, being a general manager, now president. Um, you're always involved in indoor soccer. So, what's your passion about indoor soccer? What drives you to keep staying in the game, even though the game is, it's difficult, because
Yep.
there's always changes, there's always new league, and everyone has different ideas of how they want to run an organization, run a league, as you saw with the CISL to the WISL to the PSA to, and
Right.
now it's the MASL. Um, so just give me a little background of what draws your love to the game and why you're still in it today.
Yeah, I think I was just a fan. I talked about this on another interview that I did a couple of days ago. Is that when the MISL started in 1978, and I've been told, by the way, from some other people, some people that were involved in the NASL at the time. I'm talking guys that are in their 80s and 90s right now, reached out to me saying, "Hey, wait a minute. Indoor soccer started with the NASL back in 1975, not 78, Bernie." So I'm doing some digging into that, and that's kind of cool too. Random guys from the NASL days are calling saying, "Wait a minute, we were the first to the table." But what I remember was I was 8 years old and watching the MISL. That's when it kicked off and it started. So from 8, 9, 10, all the way up, 11, 12 into my high school years, indoor soccer was around at a very high level, with the MISL. Obviously, here in Southern California, we had the LA Lasers come through. San Diego Sockers were always a staple of the indoor leagues, 90 minutes south of here. So we went all the time. My family, my parents, took me and my brothers down there and watching games. We watched games with LA Lasers. So for me, I was a fan of indoor soccer, and I really wanted to be an indoor soccer professional player. I mean, that was one of the things I wanted to do. So it's kind of cool. Whereas, kids at the time playing basketball or baseball or football, obviously they could look to Michael Jordan and be like Mike, or you know what I mean, in the other different sports, Magic Johnson, etc. Whereas myself, I was looking at Willie Milano, Batata, Beto, Eric Rasmussen. I mean, the names go on and on and on. Even some of the guys that I was fortunate eventually to play with and against, and so were you, the guys that are our age, the Prekkies of the world, that came in and were playing in the league in 94 or 95, 96, before he took off and went to MLS. So I was always a fan, 8 years old, all the way until I went to college at Cal State Northridge. And I took off a little bit, went overseas to try my luck outdoors. I played with the San Francisco Bay Blackhawks from 1991 through 94-ish, with, the Balboas of the world and Winaldas, Dominic Kinnears, John Doyle. I mean, those guys were all guys on the roster when I was a young 18, 19, 20-year-old kid. And then sure enough, I'm in that area, and San Jose Grizzlies are starting up from the San Jose Sharks. They bought a team. We're speaking of NHL owners that were part of the CISL. And they reached out and said, "Hey, would you want to help us in try and market?" And almost kind of like I was a front office staff kind of a guy. Not really, they were looking at me as a player yet. But I jumped at the opportunity and said, absolutely. I love indoor soccer. It's during the off season of the Blackhawks. I'll help out in any way I can. Sure enough, we had some open tryouts. I ran around out there and made the team. So it was a lifelong dream to be an indoor soccer player. And since then, I've literally been involved in the game. So 8-year-old as a fan, throughout high school and college a fan. I turned pro in 94, indoors pro with the Grizzlies. And since then, as you said, I've been a player, I've been a coach, I've been a GM, I've been an owner, been working, with the league at the league office and help create the MASL. It's just been a passion of mine that's crazy. And you mentioned the PSA and WISL. I mean, there's been like 13 or 14 or some crazy number of different leagues that we've had since the 1978, and that's just unheard of. So hopefully, with this indoor soccer alumni, what I'm really trying to do is trying to rally all the guys. Like I said, I got messages from some of the guys, Johnny Moore, a big name in indoor soccer that from the early 70s that were in the NASL that were involved in indoor soccer, all the way up until the current ownership and players and GMs that are now trying to just bridge that gap between everybody. And again, protect the history of the game, because I think that's very important. We have that in all the other sports. We don't have that in indoor soccer. Promote the game right now, instead of leaving it on the individual 12 or 14 teams that are out there. Maybe all of us together as a big alumni, in the tens of thousands, can bring this to the power of 10 million X, so to speak, and then really support the future. So that way the future generations, continue playing indoor soccer, and we have this for years to come. I think it's an important part of development of kids. You're a coach. You played the sport. People talk about futsal, which is great. I love it. I played futsal. I played for the U.S. national team, but I still think indoor soccer's got a place in our soccer landscape of developing players, and it can hold its own as a professional sport because it's an entertaining game. I've played it, I watched it, and I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, indoor soccer is it's it's almost like it's a completely different sport when it comes to the technical aspect. I I chose indoor soccer because I was limited on choices in Arizona. I mean, I got turned on to indoor soccer in 1992 when I was participating in Dallas Cup as a kid. But
Yep.
being part of Dallas Cup, you got tickets to the Dallas Sidekicks, and they were
Mhm.
actually playing the San Diego Sockers. So I really saw a real game, and of course, it was sold out, which is I
Yep.
had no idea. So watching, David Doyle and Tattoo and watching them play the San Diego Sockers, and I was just like, what the heck is this? I'm like, I didn't even know it really existed.
And how cool is that you played against those guys, right? When
Yeah,
you got the Sand Sharks, I mean, David Doyle, Tattoo were still there, just like me, and it was almost a weird feeling that you're in awe, going, I remember watching you a few years ago, and here I am in your shoes, on the field playing against you now. I
I
mean,
know.
that's an awesome memory that you share with me. You have that as well, and there's so many guys like us that are out there as well.
Yeah, and to play against Tattoo when he was, who knows how old he was. I don't know if they really shared those things, but he's like 39, and I'm a young
I think
guy.
he's still 39, and
Yeah,
you
he's probably
still see him.
39 still.
He's
And
coaching, and he still looks, young, and that he can go out there and kick some butt.
his
So
intelligence was ridiculous. One thing Tattoo did to me, and I couldn't. He would post up, and then he would roll the ball to David Doyle, who's cutting right or left, and then he would fly in the air, kick you with both his legs, and it was a foul on you. Plus, they got the opportunity if David would finish or not, and
yeah,
and I would just stare at the ref, and being a young guy in indoor, I'm like, what? He kicked. I always lost my head. I would always get blue cards and get in trouble because these older guys would just totally manipulate the game, and their gamemanship was just at a different level. I had no idea. No one prepared
right.
me for that. It would just it it was amazing to think about now. It was amazing then. I was so frustrated back in the day how they could get away with that and the intelligence that they had. But the
Right.
speaking of indoor soccer, I mean indoor soccer. I came in as the athlete. I worked really hard. I wasn't technical. Um, but I'm technical today. Most of my technique was learned in indoor soccer, learning from
Hmm.
Terry Woodbury, Chris Gotti, the Soderman brothers, Jason Vanacore. Um,
Oh,
I learned through them. I was stealing information, and that's what's great about indoor soccer. You can't hide out there. So
nope,
if you're not
nope.
technical, you're going to be shown to the world uh, that you're not technical. So you're always nervous. So you're always working on your technique because you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of 10,000 people. So I know for me, I was always nervous because I knew my technique was lacking. So I was always working with the ball. I mean, this stuff I should have done as a kid, but you know,
Right.
I grew up with football coaches coaching me, like we weren't taught technique like we are today.
Right.
But
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, at the end of the day, indoor soccer is very popular, and meaning at the local level facilities. Out there in your neck of the woods, and you're still out there in the Phoenix area,
yep,
and Glendale, Avondale, that whole area. I mean, how many indoor centers are there in that little 25, 30, 40 mile radius? If you think about it, it's quite a bit.
yeah,
Four,
we have three major ones, and then we
three
have a
big ones.
bunch of kind of futsal facilities, but three indoor facilities, two of which have one facility has three courts, one has two, and then the wall ball that's been there forever has the one.
Well, back in the mid 90s when we were playing, I mean, good luck if you could find one indoor soccer center to have a practice at. I mean, that was really the case around the country. Whereas that's the same model out here in Southern California. I mean, you do a little 50-mile radius and you'll find 12, 13, 14 of indoor soccer facilities with walls. And then, geez, another 50 or so that are futsal type, courts and facilities. So um, it's really just at that level, we got to just keep growing it, the grassroots level. I think what you talked about with the technical ability with the kids and touches on the ball. How many times are you going to touch the ball? How many times are you going to have that transition game from offense to defense or defense to offense that happens hundreds of times in, an hour game? Whereas in the outdoor game, you may touch the ball a few times, for these kids that are playing in tournaments, a day in the weekends, etc. They touch the ball a few times, they transition a couple times. Whereas, futsal and indoor soccer, I think, is a really good, not just development tool, but it's a pretty cool sport when you get to the professional level, like you mentioned. We were playing in front of tens of thousands of people every night. I remember Anaheim, Dallas, 17,000 here in Anaheim. You know, when we went down to Arizona, I think we played at, was it the Coliseum, or we were playing at where the NBA team played?
America West Arena, and now it's the United Airways, I think.
Exactly. So I think they've played indoor soccer over at the Coliseum as well. And I played there, so I got confused. But I mean, packed the people. You know what I mean? I mean, what an atmosphere we played in front of. Part of this whole alumni thing is to, like I said, to bring those types of things back. But also, notice I just didn't say professional indoor soccer alumni. I really want to get into the grassroots with this and really try and promote indoor soccer at all these facility levels, all the way up to the professional level, and continue to help in the development of U.S. soccer on the national stage. We just had a player here, Adrian Perez, that came to an open tryout here in Ontario a couple years ago. We hold these every year. All the indoor teams hold them every year. You get 30, 40, 50 guys that come out, pay a few bucks to try their luck and see if they can make the professional indoor team. Well, 5 minutes into this tryout, we're seeing this kid, Adrian Perez, just destroy people left and right and scoring goals. We signed him on the spot, so to speak, added him to the roster. Within 18 months, he played, 20 or so indoor games. That's about it, really. Within 18 months, LAFC invited him into training camp last season and signed him to a contract. He's in his second year with LAFC, and Bob Bradley and his staff watched him play Ontario Fury indoor soccer and was just saying, they made the connection. We think this kid could do well for us, and he sure has. His first MLS start against Orlando last year, he scored a goal, and he's continuing doing what he did indoors. Those are the type of stories I think we can have a lot more of, and there's a lot of good quality players that may get passed up early on, college drafts, etc., and end up playing at smaller colleges and don't get drafted, etc. Go indoors for a year or two, and then get seen again for the big clubs, MLS, etc. So those are the type of stories I want to keep seeing,
and they should keep happening. There's a lot of points you brought up that gets my head spinning a little bit. I know there in the early '90s. The indoor soccer players, they couldn't transition to MLS because we didn't know what the heck was going to happen with the MLS, and they didn't pay enough. So a lot of the top players in our country were playing indoor soccer, and they weren't willing to give up their 6-figure contract to go play for $24,000 in the MLS. And we didn't think it would make it because they had the whole players union was starting, and they were fighting with the ownership, and we weren't sure they're going to make it. And that's why there was, I know my father-in-law got involved in the ownership of the Arizona Thunder, mainly because he saw that. He said, well, if MLS doesn't make it, indoor's just going to go nuts. And you're dealing with that. But going to the development side of it, we always refer to Kurt Warner and his success in arena football and how it developed him to winning a Super Bowl. And he talks about arena football. It's no different than arena soccer. Indoor soccer is it's just so much faster, and the decision you have to make are just so much quicker. It's a different game because the speed of play is it's too fast for 99% of the people out there. But the 1% that can handle the pressure of indoor soccer, it definitely translates to the outdoor game. As we see the outdoor game growing in the U.S., you can't lose the ball anywhere. If you give up the
Nope.
ball in any part of the field, it's a counterattack, regardless
Mhm.
of anywhere on the field that you lose it. So indoor soccer is, in my opinion, preparatory for development. You need to be able to deal with this kind of pressure. So
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's fun too, isn't it, for the kids? I mean, I know you can go on any given weekend to the indoor facilities out here, and they've got games and leagues going, pickup games, etc., from early mornings to the late hours at night, all different ages. It's fun because again, you're active, you're running around, you're playing, you're touching the ball, you're part of the game constantly for that hour. Whereas, and I'm an outdoor guy too. We all started outdoor. I played outdoor, throughout my whole youth and high school and college and the first few years of professional. And then I went back to outdoors with the Connecticut Wolves and Charleston Battery in the USL for a little bit. But I'm talking as a kid and the development when you're having fun doing something. I've had fun doing this indoor soccer thing since you know the early 90s. I'm going to be 50 here in 2 weeks, David. And I'm kind of looking back at it going, whoa. All these other guys that I played with, yourself, so many other guys, Rich Ryerson, etc. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Very successful businessmen. They're doing, college coaching. They're, all kinds of other, their career path took them somewhere different. But at the end of the day, they still have that love for the game and the indoor game. But I've had fun doing this. So it's not really a job or something stressful for me. I love doing this. So same thing for the kids and the youth playing indoor. It's fun. You see the smiles on their faces, and there's not as much. I mean, at the pro level, yeah, we've got a lot of tactics involved in indoor soccer. I think you know what I mean. But at the youth level, I think the coaches let the kids play, have fun, not too much, talking and coaching, and the kids are developing a little bit, quicker that way. So, there's definitely something to be said for indoor soccer and futsal as a developmental tool for the outdoor leagues. And, hopefully down the road, that's another, wish list on my million things of a wish list is somehow there's some type of connection between the two, MLS and whatever the top professional indoor league at the time is.
well, speaking of that connection, you guys had Jermaine Jones
Mm-hmm.
play for Ontario, and then Landon Donovan playing for the Sockers. So you being involved in that heavily, what was the experience like to have Landon Donovan and Jermaine Jones participating in
You
the
know,
league?
it was awesome. I mean, they, Donovan was the first in a sense, and he really put us on the map. I mean, the press conference was attended by so many media attention that we haven't gotten in a lot of years. Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Fox Soccer, Fox Sports, Rob Stone, Lawless, all those guys were talking about it, Taylor Twellman and generally those are the voices of American soccer, right? I mean, they've got all their podcasts, they've got all their stories, all their different things that they're doing. And just to get a mention that Landon Donovan at the time, the all-time leading goal scorer for MLS until, Wando took that over, Wondolowski, another indoor soccer alumni, by the way. He played
Yep.
in Stockton Cougars for a little bit. He's your all-time leading goal scorer in MLS. But for Donovan to come over and make the transition into the MASL, obviously he was promoting himself in San Diego market for some things that he had going on, which was the San Diego Loyal that he has right now in the USL. But he put us on the map and a lot of attention, I should say. Not put us on the map, but a lot of media attention that we wouldn't have gotten if he wasn't here. Same for Jermaine Jones. I mean, we had to hire extra media people in order to handle the media request and just the attention that the Ontario Fury was getting at the time. It was a pretty intense and pretty awesome experience that I'll never forget. It's one of the highlights, bringing a big time international player that played in the Bundesliga and did so many great things, played for our national team, scored an unbelievable goal in the World Cup for our national team. And then to have him wearing our colors and playing indoor soccer, the thing that I'm so passionate about, was pretty awesome. And then seeing those two play against each other in front of a nearly sold out crowd, and the atmosphere, and it was just, man, it was like someone pinched me. So hopefully we can replicate that. And there's other, not just MLS players, but there's other guys out there that have made the transition from indoor to outdoor, and vice versa. That I think that connection can be really strong. Omid Namazi, the assistant coach for Houston Dynamo, he played for years and years and years in our league. He was a coach. He was an all-star player. You've got Preki, that obviously started indoors and went outdoors and continued on, and played for our national team, and is still involved in the game as an assistant coach. Brian Schmetzer, how many titles the Seattle Sounders won, and different stuff. Head coach for the Sounders, whether people realize it or not, played for many, many years for indoor soccer. So we've got a lot of ties to the game and a lot of connections already. I think it's just the start of a lot more to come. And it was exciting to see Donovan and Jermaine. And remember, Lamar Neagle from Seattle made the transition to Tacoma Stars. And we had Kevin Ellis that played for the Sporting KC, that also played for Kansas City Comets. So I think more's coming in the next few years, which is pretty exciting.
And the one thing I would say about Landon Donovan, I watched some highlight clips of him playing. He looked like he was a kid. Like when goals were scored, he was celebrating. Like, I mean, to see him behave that way, like it was so cool for him, really
Yep.
helped. And he was
No,
sincere.
he took this serious. I mean, he signed, and he took 2 weeks to get indoor fit, mentally ready. Learn the rules, learn the intricacies of the game. I mean, he took this serious. It wasn't just a sideshow. And exactly that. He said that. He said that, he actually was having fun for the first time he could remember in a long time. And this is coming from a guy that, has traveled the world, played a lot of different high level and probably stressful situations as well. Especially over the last few years of his career, going down to Mexico and back, and kind of that uncertainty. But he said he was having the time of his life and fun. And that goes back to it again. He remembered, as a kid playing down here. Ironically, he played here in our area in Ontario, at our training facility. That's where he grew up, kicking the ball around, and he remembers those times. So he had a lot of fun. Jermaine had a lot of fun. He said the same thing. I can't believe I didn't play this 10 years ago. I love this stuff. This is a lot of fun. So, both those guys were great. They were great ambassadors, and hopefully continue on being ambassadors for not just our U.S., soccer in general, but indoor soccer. Both of them have played for me with the national team now. Jermaine actually went to the Mini Football World Cup with us in Australia last summer. So, if we get more guys like that to buy in and tell the story of indoor soccer, much more powerful and much more impactful than Bernie and David on a podcast. You know what I mean? Those guys really bring attention to the game, but we're part of it, and you're part of it as well. The history of it.
It's for the great players out there. I mean, players like Landon Donovan, Ronaldinho. I mean, they're happy players. They love the game for what it is. When I had Rene Ortiz on the podcast, he talked how he played against Maradona in an indoor event when he was banned from out FIFA. So he played indoor soccer because he loved the game that much. Another one like that was Miguel Herrera, who played with the Sand Sharks, who's now coaching in Mexico. Who's he with now? He's with Club America. And
Club America, yeah, but yeah, he big national team coach, right? I mean,
yeah, I know. It was frustrating because when he come to Arizona, we would get tickets to the game, Mexico versus USA, and then he had the unbelievable World Cup run, and he was like one of the most famous coaches in the world, and then he gets fired over a report. I was just like, I was devastated because now I have no connection, and I needed that connection, but he's obviously heavily involved in the game, and that's someone I encourage you to reach out to. I know Rene Ortiz and I are planning on hopefully going on a visit over there and just kind of see how they do things with Club America. But
right.
there might be something there in Mexico where they might send players to develop, you know,
Hmm.
in the indoor league, and he can attest to how difficult it was. It wasn't easy for Miguel. It was so fast. His head was spinning. It was tough. And
Yep. Yeah, no, and Renee, speaking of Renee, he's done an unbelievable job on, you're saying, I'm running the US side of stuff for the indoor soccer and, was a coach and the GM now. Renee's been doing that as well, just as long. He's been the coach and somewhat of a GM role for the Mexican indoor soccer team for years. They just won the Mini Football World Cup. Um, and I think Renee notices that. Obviously, I was a roommate of Renee's in Cincinnati. We played together. Great guy. He's just a great mind of the indoor game as
yeah,
well. And he's been, really responsible, I would say, the last 5, 6, almost 10 years of bringing a lot of Mexican talent here to our league. And obviously Mexico, fútbol rápido, and it's very popular down there. Talk about us having 10 or 12 in one city. They probably got 50 in one city. They love it. Soccer's a religion down there. But Renee's done a tremendous job. I want to make sure highlight that what Renee has done and his role of indoor soccer has been tremendous over the last 10 years. And I know that would be an unbelievable connection to get Miguel, involved. I think I saw someone a couple years ago had posted, it was either a team photo or something with all you guys in it with Miguel. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And I was just like, that how awesome is that? Just another cool story of indoor soccer that everyone watching, Mexico play at the time, or Club America right now at the time, in front of these 70,000, well, not now with COVID, but you know
right,
what I'm talking about
yeah,
beforehand, is like, man, that head coach, that crazy guy out there that is famous for, his faces and screaming and yelling. He played for the Arizona Sand Sharks in the CISL back in the mid 90s. How cool is that?
I I use that as a recruiting tool here in Phoenix, Arizona.
And
So
you should.
at Phoenix
And you should.
College, when I meet
Mm-hmm.
with my whole team's Hispanic. That's just the
Right.
nature of where I live. Those are the best players. Um,
Right.
and I use that to the kids' parents. And then when they find out I play with Miguel Herrera, it's like, where do we sign? And they can't
Yeah.
believe it. Like
Yeah.
that.
And again, that's what I'm saying. The connection with him. Can you imagine if he does a 20, 30-minute interview on indoor soccer for us? You know what I mean? And tells his stories and how hard it was, but the transition, how it helped him, and then where he's at now. I mean, again, it's Donovan, it's Jermaine, it's those guys that really can help us get that awareness. And again, it's not just Miguel, it's not just one or two of these guys. There's thousands and thousands of players out there, David, and executives and coaches and so on and so on, that got their start or have some type of history in indoor soccer, which again, it goes back to why we're talking. This whole alumni connected us again, just
Right.
announcing the indoor soccer alumni. That's what it's all about. And, I think the sport will be better for it. We'll all be happy about it. I mean, I've got so many people in the last week here. It's been less than a week that I announced it, and breaking out their old photos and jerseys and, posting stuff on socials, making sure to send me a message, or just I see them posting more stuff about it. I hope this continues, and I think it will. This is just the start of a long little run here for again, protect the history of the game, but really the second part is really promoting it right now, getting it back to that heyday that you remember, that I remember, where we played in front of. I mean, if we played in front of 7,000 people, that was a small night for all of us. Like, whoa, where's the crowd tonight? There must have been something else going on, Whereas now, if you get 7,000, some of the buildings we're playing in at the pro level can't even hold 7,000.
Right.
That's the difference that we're at. So hopefully this will help promote the game as well, and bring us back. We'll never take over NBA, NHL, even MLS. I'm not talking about doing that, but let's bring it back to the heyday, at least, of where we were, and be a even if we're the sixth best sport in the world, it's going to be pretty impressive.
It, and I would have played for free to play
Yeah,
indoor
you
soccer
hear that
again.
over
I mean,
there.
they didn't need to pay me. I just love playing in front of the crowd. I love the pressure. I loved the environment. It it's it was different, and to be able to play with people that are 20 years older than you that can still play the game. And
When you said you would play for free,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
you maybe that you hear that a lot, from National League lacrosse type people, arena football, indoor football, athletes that, you know, they play for the love of the sport, and it's some of the best years of their life that, they just love playing in front of those big crowds and promoting the sport. So, it's interesting that you said that, because some of these other sports that are on the rise, that's exactly what their athletes are doing.
Yeah. So before we get cut off again, I know it's everyone's using Wi-Fi, and my kids are in
Oh,
school right now. We're all getting killed with network, and
yeah.
so I wanted to ask you this one question of what can we do as an alumni? What can the alumni do to get involved with the alumni uh, soccer organization that you started?
Yeah, well, right now it's about awareness. So really, I've been trying to just connect with, guys like yourself and so many other, alumni that have been involved in the game for so many years and doing other stuff right now, to just, like, share, follow, post, just let's spread the word, try and get, to the Jason Vanacours, and you said the Soderman brothers, and all the different people that played there in Arizona. There's Donnie Gaylor. Remember him?
Yep.
That he played for years. And let's reconnect with all these guys. And a lot of those guys in your area, just like, other people in Pittsburgh and San Jose and down in Dallas, that we can really try and get the awareness going. And that's stage one, in a sense, the first couple of weeks of just let everyone know about, we've got a lot, indoor soccer alumni now, be a part of it, spread the word about it. And then over the next couple months, the next stage is really starting to develop programs and really, really start dialing in and getting a lot of the guys involved. So obviously during COVID right now, there's no way we can all get together somewhere and share our stories in person, etc. But there's a lot of things we can do, just like the kids have to do in school right now, etc. That we can tell the stories of some of the players. If we got a Miguel, for example, that you were mentioning, how cool is that? That we'll get him on your podcast for 15, 20 minutes talking about, indoor soccer and the history and the love that he had for it and what it meant to him in his career. And then we can share that story on the alumni, network for you, bring awareness to you and what you're doing right now, David, but then also, expose the sport of the game. We have so many alumni that are out there that who knows what they're doing. I know some of the guys, but there's so many others. Jim Kavanaugh, a guy that played for the St. Louis Steamers in the NPSL. He's the new owner of the MLS team, St. Louis Soccer Club. I played against this guy. I was part of, playing against him. How cool is that? That's an ESPN E60 story.
Right.
We need to get that exposed. So basically, to short answer to question, first couple of weeks right now, just awareness, spread the word on all our different channels. Let's get as many of our, friends and family that remember indoor soccer to join this thing and follow, share, like everything on social. And then the next couple of months ahead, we'll have some programs that are announced and some cool things for the alumni and tell their stories and help promote the game.
I'm excited. So to get more information, we go indoorsocceralumni.com.
Correct.
And then you can find the Facebook and Twitter
Yep.
handles on there.
I set it up pretty easy. So indoorsocceralumni.com, that's the website. And then all social media handles is indoor alumni. So
Okay.
indoor alumni for all the different, there's a TikTok, there's a Snapchat, if you're into that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't think there's any content on there yet, but, indoor alumni on all social media handles, and then indoorsocceralumni.com. And then sign up for the newsletter as well. That's going to be the quickest, fastest way for us to get information to you.
Well, I'll definitely promote it on my podcast, and I'll push it out there on all my social media that I have available to me.
Yeah. And I'm really going to work with Renee on this. I want to get Miguel on your show. So we're going to try and make this happen, not just for you, which I know you'd be excited about it, but for me, you gave me a challenge. I'm like, that's how I am. I love this stuff. You challenged me. I'm going to try and make this happen.
Yeah, we're hopeful that we can make that happen. I had Renee on in March at the beginning of the shutdown, and we just don't know when it's going to end. And I know that's kind of like our first thing we want to do.
Good. Awesome. Well, between the three of us, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Remember Juan De Lo, goalkeeper?
Absolutely. El Gato.
Yeah, I just connected with him. Are you friends with him on Facebook?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I've scored many goals against Juan.
Hey, and that's one record I would like to know where he stands, because I was part of 3 games with him where he had shutouts.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
that
why I
just
was
doesn't
joking that
happen. So
I've scored a few goals on him. That's why I was saying that. Like it
yeah,
was hard to score on that kid, man.
yeah.
He's unbelievable. So no, that's great. And yeah, please, all once you do have him on the show and you're talking to him, we definitely want to share that content for the rest of the alumni to see as well.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. This was Bernie Livavois on the Coach Cameron podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.